Possible worlds here on the Radio Wammo Breakfast. Time now is 13 minutes past 8.
We could do it, take off, live in the woods.
They'd catch us.
Well, maybe not.
We wouldn't make it 5 miles.
Select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games.
It's your first year.
There you go, there's the title of the film. You got it right there. The Hunger Games. If you haven't heard of it, where you been? Under a rock? It's only the biggest film since the other bigger film before that one. Lena Lamont's been and seen it, so that you may or may not have to.
Yeah. Morning, Wammo.
Morning. Hunger Games.
Yeah.
People are comparing this one to Twilight.
They are. Look,
I guess because it's the same fan base.
That's right. Let's put paid to the whole... I mean, it is the next Twilight, but it is not about vampires, and it doesn't have, in my opinion, a lot of the really sort of saccharine kind of schmaltzy annoyingness of the Bella-Edward-Jacob triangle. So let's start afresh. You're absolutely right. The reason they're likening it to Twilight is because the Hunger Games is for a young adult audience. It's based on a trilogy of books.
The screaming fans outside the movie theatre don't help this film.
What don't help you wanting to see
That's
it?
Right.
Or,
yeah.
But they'll give you a good indication, right, of how massive it is and how popular it is. And I think, one more comparison with Twilight that is actually valid is that again, trilogy of books, the Hunger Games trilogy, like the Twilight trilogy, made into massive films. So far, we've only had the first Hunger Games, written for a young adult audience.
Yeah.
But it seems to have become incredibly popular with people right up into their 30s and 40s, which is exactly what happened with Twilight.
Isn't it good, all these young people reading and getting into books?
Well, at least
Lena
they're
Lamont,
reading.
Isn't it?
That's exactly right. I was turned on to the Hunger Games book because I was told it's unputdownable, and I thought, wow, I haven't read an unputdownable book for as long as I can remember. So let's give this one a whirl. And I was literally awake into the wee hours. I mean, it's not a difficult read. It's quite large print on the page and all that. But the story was sufficiently engrossing that it's basically when Suzanne Collins wrote The Hunger Games, she must have been thinking, there is a film in this book.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there is. It's a fantastic story.
Post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, it's kind of a dystopian future, a very grim sort of realistic future set in a country called Panem, which is ostensibly North America. And it's a time in the future when the country has been divided into 12 districts that are all governed by a capital. The capital is full of very wealthy, very happy, flamboyantly dressed rich people, and everybody in the 12 districts is slaving away. They're dressed in the film, certainly, they're dressed in sort of much more 1930s, 1940s kind of Depression era kind of war era clothing, and they're labouring away in coal mines and hunting and all that sort of thing. And they have been punished basically for a revolution that happened sometime in the past. And the Hunger Games happens annually, where people from the capital go round and they choose 2 tributes from each district, a young boy and a young girl aged between 12 and 18. And then these 24 tributes are given a little bit of training in throwing spears and fighting and swordplay and defence, and then they are thrown into the most deadliest of arenas where they all have to fight to the death. It's basically the Running Man crossed with Battle Royale crossed with Lord of the Flies. Yeah, but in a sort of a more modern young adult context.
Yeah. Okay. I hear it's very violent.
The books are way more violent than the movies. A decision was taken that the movie couldn't afford to be too violent, and because it had to get an R13 rating or something like that in the States. But the film, in my opinion, still manages to give you the grimness of what these children have to go through, certainly. But it is not overwhelmingly disturbing. Whereas I know a lot of older adults who found the books quite disturbing because of this notion of 12-year-olds having to fight to the death. So the film really, it does do a very good job of being exciting and adventurous without being too nasty.
But plenty of romance in there for the ladies.
Well, there is romance for
now,
ladies.
Is that too slow? Is the romance too slow? Is relationship building?
There is relationship building. It's probably more aggravating in the book than it is in the film, to be honest with you. Katniss Everdeen is our protagonist, and she is this plucky heroine who has been going off and doing hunting and hunting and fishing anyway in her own while she's been living in her district. She's thrown into this arena with the best chance of winning, and inevitably, I suppose, for a story like this, there is an undercurrent of supposed romance between her and her fellow tribute, played by Josh Hutcherson from The Kids Are All Right. I don't know if you remember, we spoke about that maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
That's the one with the lesbian parents and Annette Bening and Julianne Moore. Anyway, Katniss Everdeen, most importantly, is played by a wonderful American actress called Jennifer Lawrence. Some people will have seen her in the X-Men prequel. She's the one who goes all blue. What's that character called? You know, the one who...
Yeah, Toucan's Blue.
Yeah, in the X-Men stories.
Ah,
Her,
yes.
right, you know what I'm talking about. And more importantly, she was Oscar nominated for Winter's Bone. So she's a really good actress.
Yeah.
Already got an Oscar nomination under her belt, I think at age 19 or something. So she plays Katniss in this. And I think brings a bit more kind of like sort of depth and power to the performance.
Yep.
Yeah, rather than our Twilight colleagues.
So you're hanging out for Hunger Games Part 2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, really, just to see whether they can maintain the momentum. And I bet you $1 million that they can't, to be perfectly honest. But the first film was really good in and of itself.
Okay.
And I saw it with people who had read the book and thought that it was a good adaptation, and people who had not ever read anything to do with it and thought it was a really good story in its own right.
Great. Well, that was the Hunger Games. Now on to Attack the Block.
That's an alien, bruv. Believe it. When I landed in the wrong place, though, you get me? The wrong place.
Well, lads, you discovered a species hitherto unknown to science. He kicked his head in. Yo, check it.
It looks like Super 8 set in a housing estate
in South London.
In South London.
Yeah. This is a fantastic little film. Yeah. So, Attack the Block, I think this will come out of left field for a lot of people. It's a British-made indie film. It can't have had a very high budget because, it just can't have.
Well, it's from the producers of Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, so therefore it probably didn't have a massive budget.
Yeah.
And so, Attack the Block is basically about a housing estate in South London where there's this gang of youths who I think if we were to pass them on the street, we would think, you hooligans, you hoodies.
Yeah.
Definitely Tony Blair would have called them hoodies back in the day. They're still wearing hoodies in South London. And they're out there mugging people and basically causing trouble. And all of a sudden they're in the middle of an attempted mugging and an alien falls from outer space, and they take this as a very sort of confrontational thing and antagonistic. And so this gang of bruvs, hey bruv as they call each other, they decide we're going to fight back and we're not having it.
Yeah.
And then
it's on our turf, yeah?
Yeah, don't you be coming down on our turf and busting up our hood, sort of thing. And so they fight back in extraordinary ways, and it's an absolute delight. It's hilarious because you're basically looking at a bunch of actors you probably have never seen before. Most of them have never done acting before anyway.
Apart from the Shaun of the Dead dude.
Apart from Nick Frost from Shaun of the Dead, that's right. So Nick Frost he's the other half of Simon Pegg. They played the Thompson twins in Tintin, and they were in Spaced together back in the very early days.
Yeah.
And another little Tintin kind of dragging in another reference is the fact that this film was made by Joe Cornish, who is well known in England for doing Adam and Joe and a lot of British telly, but to us we'd probably only know his name as being a co-writer on the Tintin movie for Spielberg.
Okay.
So I don't know how much of that whole kind of, my mate Simon Frost and, was it Simon Pegg and Nick Frost were involved, or I don't know how that worked. But anyway, Joe Cornish created this film. It is a very accomplished little number in a way.
Is it funny?
It's so funny, and to me it's really funny because of the dialogue. So you've got all these they're basically just kids who start off trying to be all like hard men, And then whenever they're put into a sort of a difficult situation, obviously, I mean, there are moments when they're all like effing and blinding with their mates, and then they're ringing their mum and going, "Mum, I said I'm not going to be home till later."
You've got to sort out this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, they all get embroiled in fighting these monsters. And the monsters aren't irrelevant, but the point of the monsters is to get these kids to band together with the people that they were attempting to mug and the other people on the estate and fight back. And it's terribly funny, terribly well done. Highly recommended.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
It's cool, man.
Attack the Block is what we've just been talking about. Hunger Games before that. You'll find more film reviews in the Sunday Star Times and leanlamont.wordpress.com. Yeah. Thanks very much. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
Too much madness explained in one text.
We have to call the police.
You'd be better off calling the Ghostbusters, love.
What's wrong with you, man?
You got tools. Jesus, he looks about 6.
I'm 9.5.
We need to get off the streets, back in the block.
Wait, this is safe. Good luck.